A deload week is a 1 week period of training at the end of a hard training cycle that is a volume and intensity reduction from the previous weeks of training. The point of a deload is to help an athlete drop fatigue levels within their body. This allows them to, one, prevent injuries, two, get fresh and be ready to go for the next cycle of training. When you're training really hard and pushing yourself, you're going to start getting run down, beat up, may feel lethargic, may feel like you're going through the motions, and the amount of weight that you can actually lift in training is going to be reduced, not because you're not strong enough, but basically because you're just so run down and beat up. So it's important to incorporate deload weeks at the right times to allow an athlete to stay fresh so they can keep making progress. Now let's look at if you're training for hypertrophy, which is to help an athlete put more muscle mass on, versus when training for strength, which is to help an athlete move more weight from point A to point B. When training for hypertrophy, we're training with higher repetitions and less weight on the bar. So you can go a much longer duration without having to deload. Whereas when you're training for strength, there's much more weight on the bar. It's a little more physiologically demanding. Therefore, you're going to have to deload much sooner. So typical protocols would be 4 weeks of hard training followed by a 1 week deload. Whereas when training for strength, it's a 3 weeks of training followed by a 1 week deload. You have to look at athletes' experience level. If you're new to lifting weights and you're not nearly as strong, your training is not going to be nearly as demanding, so you don't need to perform deloads as frequently. If you're squatting 135 pounds or 225 pounds for reps, that's not nearly as demanding as somebody that's squatting 400 or 500 pounds for reps. That guy that's much stronger is going to have to deload more frequently. You also have to look at how often you're training. If you're only training 2 to 3 days a week versus someone that's training 4, 5, 6 days a week, that athlete that's training 4, 5, 6 days a week is performing most likely more volume or more overall work, and is much more physiologically demanding. Because of that, they need to drop those fatigue levels much sooner than an athlete that's only training a few days a week. Common misconceptions is that it is a deload, if, like I said, if you're training 3 weeks and deloading on the 4th week, it's like taking 25% of the year off. Okay, so it's a volume and intensity reduction of about 70%. So if the last week you're training, you do say 4 sets of 10 with 315 for squats. A deload week would be maybe only 3 sets of 10 at 225 pounds. It is not an entire week off. It's just a reduction in your training. You're still going to go in there. You're still going to attack it. You're still going to push yourself, but you're going to take a little bit of weight off the bar and do a little bit less work. This way you're fresh and ready to go for the next week of training, for the next phase of training. Hopefully this clears up some misconceptions, and I appreciate you watching. Thank you.